Podcast. I am Casey Coggins, joined by Alvin Hebert.
What it is.
And Andrew Lira.
Hello, hello.
The first weekend is over in the NCAA Tournament. We are now down to the Sweet 16, and it's a little chalky. It's kind of like a murder scene. There is a chalk outline around the bracket. I think actually, so Oregon is the darling of the tournament now. They got their 10th straight win, dominating 13 seed UC Irvine as a 12 seed, and I believe with their win, we have the first perfect bracket through the first weekend ever. And
one less standing.
It's called Center Road, and I believe they went through Yahoo.
Mm-hmm.
It was either Yahoo or NCAA. There were two perfect brackets through the first round, and only one after the second. And I believe he or she, I don't know who,
Zimzer,
picked picked everything right up to the Sweet 16. So that's a lucky bastard right there. So, like I said, it's a little chalky. I think I picked every 7-10 matchup wrong.
You're telling me I had Cincinnati going. Who had Cincinnati?
Oh, man.
I just said I had Cincinnati going.
who?
That's the Cincinnati pick was rough. They did not show up they showed up and then they kind of faded because I believe they lost to Iowa. I'm not crazy on
first
that.
round Iowa.
I'm losing all my stuff here. And like I had Nevada going to the Elite Eight. I also had Belmont going to the Elite Eight. Belmont, they were up 7 with like 6 minutes left, and then just
gave it away.
Kind of folded under pressure, and Dylan Windler ended up having like 34 points and having a great game, but nobody else got going, and they just didn't get the breaks down the stretch. And the Cincinnati game was similar to that, because Cincinnati goes into the half up and has the lead up until it was a 64-62 game with 4 minutes left, and they just couldn't get over the hump. They just were out-physicaled, and Cincinnati is known as a physical team. The big surprise, though, I think, from the first weekend was the UCF Duke game from yesterday. Because before we started tonight, we were talking about how, there was this, like, oh, Duke was the heavy favorite to win it all, and they were supposed to just steamroll their way through, and they did have the tough bracket, but, like, getting tested like this, and even in the first half of the first game, they were trailing a little bit in that first game, and they were 2 inches away from getting beat in the second round. So
I think both of their games came down to the second game UCF came down to the last second shot, right?
Yeah, they ended up winning by 23 in the first game.
Yeah.
RJ Barrett had a layup or something like that.
Yeah, so UCF is up 4. They get a steal and a fast break. They throw an alley-oop to Aubrey Dawkins, son of the Duke great Johnny Dawkins, who is the UCF coach. And the ball just goes right between his hands. Like, he's by himself. All he needs to do is catch it. He doesn't even need to dunk it. He just needs to catch it and lay the ball up. And they're up 6 with 45 seconds left. And the ball just slips through his hand, and it goes Duke's way, and Cam Reddish comes down and hits a 3. makes it a 1-point game. And then Zion Williamson gets the ball. So before I get to this part, there are two things that happen in the time frame of the Cam Reddish 3 and the Zion Williamson play that I was about to get to. UCF goes up by 3. What did they go up by? UCF went up by they went up by 4 on a play where one of the UCF guards shot the ball over the rim and they reset the shot clock. And the shot clock would have gone off, and Taco Fall, big 7'6" guy, grabs the rebound and dunks it. They go to replay, and they're showing all the replays of this ball touching the rim, not touching the rim. It was inconclusive, but they kept showing it, and when they showed the ball, the above the rim shot, it obviously went over the backboard. In the part that would have touched the rim on the other shot, it looks like it might have touched the rim, but if you just understand that where that ball was actually behind where the rim bows around into a circle. Yeah. Like, it's just behind the rim. Like, that's the reason why you think it might have touched the rim, but it's hitting the bottom of the backboard there. Like, if you, like in football, they'll put 2 clips side by side to see. Even in baseball, they'll put one clip here, another clip there, and they'll say, okay, well, this is at the exact same time. Is he safe or is he out? Is he in or is he out? Like, did the ball touch the ground? Like, stuff like that. Yeah. And every time that they kept cycling through, I'm like, on this angle, yeah, you can't tell if the ball touched the rim because it's behind the rim. And on this angle, the ball is clearly not touching the rim and it got shot over the rim. So that should have been a shot clock violation. I don't think it was inconclusive at all. I think they just they didn't want to have that replay make a difference in the game, so they called it inconclusive and just let the call stand on the floor, where I believe that put UCF up 4. And then one of the next plays down for Duke, they call an offensive foul on Zion Williamson, which leads into the next play that I was about to get into with Zion, where I don't think it was a charge. The guy was already off balance, falling backwards, and Zion spun, and I think it was more of a flop. It could have been a no call, but I definitely don't think it was a charge. So then we have the missed alley-oop, Cam Reddish 3, 1-point game, Duke ball, down 1 with 10 seconds left. Zion drives in, runs over a guy, spins back. I think it was another guy was already falling down, and, you get bumped by a 285-pound physical freak, whether or not he's, like, lowering his shoulder and out of control, like, you're going to fall. So I liked the no call there. I don't think that was a charge, and there was a lot of people saying, oh, that was definitely a charge. If this other one was a charge, then that has to be a charge. But why can't that charge just be wrong, and then they made up for it with a no call? Like that. I mean, I know we like consistency, but we also want to make the calls the correct calls. Like, we don't want to consistently make bad calls, do we?
Right. So you decide not to make the call.
Like, you try to make up for it by doing another bad call, so it's just a cycle.
Well, so no, I don't think the second call I don't think the no call was a bad call. Like, the no call was a good no call. It was because like that was a good call, but I'm talking about people complaining that wasn't called a charge when this other one was called a charge. And I'm like, that one doesn't need to be called a charge just because this other one was. Because that other one was a bad call. Them not calling anything there was the correct call. Like that is a no. That wasn't a charge.
I don't know, man.
I would say R.J. Barrett in the play that the next play was more of a foul, an offensive foul, than Zion. Because I don't think Zion, that was a charge where he ended up going into Taco Fall, getting the foul, getting the end one.
You know what it sounds like? Did you see the clip that I tweeted out about the NCAA?
Oh, once I saw what it was, I was like, no, there's no fucking way I'm watching it.
Of course you would, because you would have fit exactly in line with that clip show right now. NCAA trying to make it that Duke doesn't get bounced out.
No, I don't. I actually think that they did a poor job in Duke's, like, in UCF's favor. Like the offensive foul that they called on Zion, I don't think was an offensive foul. I don't think it was the ball hit rim and they called a shot clock violation. Like, those are two plays that helped UCF maintain the lead. UCF didn't do, if they convert the alley-oop, if, the ball rolls in at the end, like, that, those aren't refs doing anything. That's not the refs being like, oh, well, the NCAA needs to do. No. The refs had no part of this outcome. But
UCF didn't do themselves any favors.
But Zion it was a proper no call on the end one with Taco Fall before he got into Taco Fall. The dude flopped. That's that. Just because you made a bad call previously, you're going to make the same bad call the next time?
Is that a rhetorical question?
Yeah. All right.
Am I supposed to answer that?
It is a real question. It's not rhetorical. So if you're the ref and you call a charge on somebody, doesn't have to take teams, players, and anything. You call a charge on somebody. The next time down the court, and you realize that the previous foul was a bad call, it shouldn't have been a charge, are you going to make the same exact call because, well, I made a bad call this other time, so I need to make the same bad call? Or should I make the proper call the next time?
Well, I thought the second one was a charge. So if I was the ref, I would have made the same call. Like, yup, charge. You're going in with reckless abandonment.
He didn't, though. He didn't.
You're spinning. You're dipping and spinning into a player.
The player was already falling down and was
on the second one.
Both times the defensive players were already falling back and flopping. And all it takes for him is to make any contact, and that player is going to fly.
Well, to me, that's the Shaq rule.
Yeah, but they didn't call offensive fouls all the time on Shaq.
Yeah, they did.
No, they didn't.
Every time he would turn around,
he would hit people with an elbow.
But he's doing a proper basketball move.
But that's the thing.
He's doing a proper
basketball move. It's a proper move. You throw your elbows.
That's the Shaq rule is the Karl Malone rule, because Karl Malone would turn around with the elbow and hit people in the chin with the elbow to knock them off. Shaq did the same thing. It's not a basketball move. It's like the hook. It's the hook around the back. So when you spin and you hook, that's an offensive foul. If you have your elbows out wide, you're using that elbow to create the room. He didn't have his elbows out wide. He was tucked in, and he hit shoulder and turned, and the guy fell because he was smaller. You can't reward that.
To me, I feel like he dips a little bit every time he makes that.
Everybody makes a spin move and they dip their shoulder like that.
But
that is every.
You can't
when he dips, you dip, we dip.
Exactly. Come on. Every post player, if you watch every,
you just can't put this from the shoulder meat here to tricep.
No,
you can't put it in the chest.
No, you can't lean in with it. He didn't lean in with it.
He rocked with it.
Yeah. That's the thing, is that nothing about the Zion play was an offensive foul other than a defensive player fell down. Like that is the one, like, oh, the defensive player fell down, that must be an offensive foul.
Always.
Like, why couldn't he just fall down because he was out of position and got bumped by a bigger guy?
Because they don't do that.
That's called a blocking foul.
And so they could have called it a blocking foul. And then
called yourself.
And then
No,
got you.
The way he explained it is a blocking foul. He said, "But don't make a call." But
Right.
me, I thought it was a charge. I thought he was in position, and you get hit by a dude that outweighs you.
I feel like these guys don't know what the position is anymore to begin with.
He was going middle. He stopped his momentum and spun back towards the basket, and the guy fell down because there was minimal contact. It's not like he kept going forward. He stopped his momentum and spun back.
No,
It wasn't MJ pushing Byron Russell off. It's not that same thing.
That's a different story.
Like, he completely changed the way he was moving. It's not an offensive foul, and I don't think it was a blocking foul either. I think it was a proper no call, which leads into the call that probably should have been made, that I will argue was an offensive foul. Zion goes to the line, a chance to go up 2 points, or a chance to, tie the game? What was it? God, I can't fucking remember anymore.
It was a tie. He got his own rebound, didn't he?
He had a chance to tie the game. That's what it was. Because he misses the free throw, doesn't tie the game, and RJ Barrett gets the rebound and puts it up to go up 1.
Yep.
That's what it was. Sorry for misremembering that. But RJ Barrett, they don't really show a good clip of it, but initially when that ball comes off and where the camera's positioned, you can see his hand on the back of Aubrey Dawkins pushing forward.
Here we go again.
And he comes down with the rebound and gets the layup. That should have been called. That should have been a foul. It should have been a foul on RJ Barrett. I'm not just trying to say that Zion shouldn't have been called because I picked Duke to win it all. I don't fucking care. I want the calls to be made right. So RJ Barrett gets away with that push off, scores the go-ahead layup, and then coming down the other way, UCF gets into that like 10-foot range, shoots kind of an off-balance runner. It was a poor offensive possession.
Yeah.
That's not the guy that should have been making that shot. They shouldn't have even had it in anybody's hands other than Aubrey Dawkins, who was 12 of 18 with 32 points, who was pretty much not contested all game. But instead, it's their point guard, BJ Taylor. He misses the shot. But then Aubrey Dawkins just out of nowhere comes flying in through just the Red Sea and gets a tip in. And the ball just rolls right across the front of the rim. The inside part of the front of the rim. Not even like the outside, like where it was like there was no way that was going in. Like it was inside the rim, and all it needed to do was just lose a little momentum and it would have fallen through. And it rolls right off the rim, and Duke survives and advances. So a little play-by-play of the end of the Duke game for the listeners.
That was story time with Casey Coggins.
That was Zion did not charge.
And scene.
I think the funniest part of everything was after the game when Coach K was being interviewed. He was talking about Aubrey Dawkins being magnificent. And he goes, not sensational, but magnificent. Like, what's the difference of sensational and magnificent? Like,
there's a difference.
Like, what would have been a sensational game?
Apparently, there is.
Where they win.
Like, yeah, is sensational if that layup goes in and they win the game? Or is sensational like he had 2 less points or missed like 4 more shots? Like,
make that free throw.
Yeah, like, I don't... Well, that's just Aubrey Dawkins, not Zion Williamson.
The one where Zion missed the free throw and then Barrett got the rebound.
Well, no, I'm saying like
That's
he
what
was
we're
talking
talking about, fool.
he was talking about Aubrey Dawkins, not Zion Williamson. He was saying Aubrey Dawkins was magnificent, not sensational. And I'm like, what is the difference? Like, what is why is he magnificent, not sensational?
What would have made him sensational?
Exactly. Like I have so many questions. Last point on Duke is Zion Williamson. He's solidified the number one pick. Like we talked last week before the tournament started, like what would need to happen for Zion not to go number one? Well, nothing would be the answer.
There was no meteor.
And no meteor. I know you drew such a beautiful picture of a meteor.
And it was nice.
John Morant got bounced in the second round. And Zion Williamson has 57 points after the first two games, tying Kevin Durant's freshman record for first two games in an NCAA tournament. The difference there is that the second game was Kevin Durant's last when they lost to O.J. Mayo-led USC. And that was really the last time that I truly followed UT basketball. That was the day that it died.
Well, not going to care about you guys for a few years.
Right.
Well, I was a freshman at Baylor. All right, I started my loyalty started swaying another way. Speaking of Baylor, they got just absolutely destroyed by Gonzaga. Well, it ended up being a 12-point game, but it was 16 points at half, and I think it was more Gonzaga just kind of
let off the gas.
Yeah.
Take it easy on you guys.
Brandon Clark kind of reminded people that this isn't just the Rui Hachimura show. Like, I'm arguably the best player on this team. And if depending on who you ask, I am the best player on Gonzaga. He ended up with 36-8, and Baylor just was outmatched. Like they were lucky to beat Syracuse. It took a just phenomenal 3-point barrage in the first game against Syracuse for them to win. In the first game against Syracuse, they were 16 of 34 from three. And they still barely eked that game out. So Gonzaga has just looked like the team that everybody expected. Tennessee. So this is the game that I had picked for what I think was the best game of the weekend. Like, what did I enjoy watching the most and following the most was Tennessee versus Iowa in round 2. So Tennessee against Colgate in round 1, 15 versus a 2 seed. They struggled.
15 seed?
Yeah. Yeah,
I heard 10. I'm sorry.
15 versus a 2 seed.
I was like, 10. I was like, oh shit, it's a 15.
Yeah, so they were. It was Colgate 52, Tennessee 50 with 11.5 left in the game. So people were thinking, is this going to be kind of like a Lehigh Duke situation? Except Colgate doesn't have C.J. McCollum. Tennessee rights the ship and ekes out the win by 7. And I think they had motivation going into the game against Iowa. They were like, we didn't play up to our standards. We need to come out and just hit Iowa in the first half, get this game under wraps. Let's do this and move on, make it easy. They're up 25 points with 4 minutes left in the first half, 44-19. They go into the half up 21 points, 49-28, and then they come out of the half and just get steamrolled to where Iowa actually takes a 1-point lead with 3 minutes left in the game And it looks like Iowa's they have all the momentum, they have the shooting, they had everything going for them. And similar to UCF against Duke, a shot rolls out, a foul gets called, and like just little things happen to where Iowa gets a chance in overtime at least. And in overtime, Tennessee relies on probably the player of the year runner-up, Grant Williams, who puts the team on the back and seals the victory and moves them on to the Sweet 16. But just the back and forth of that second half and the shot making that was going on, and one of my favorite things that happened in the first two rounds was after this game, Tennessee's arguably best player, most talented player, Admiral Schofield, wasn't on the court at the end of the game. He wasn't on the court in overtime. He didn't foul out. He had 4 fouls. And so they were asked about, like, hey, why wasn't he in the game? And Rick Barnes says, he told me to keep Kyle in the game. Like, he didn't want... He wanted to keep the guys who, like, put all that work in to stay in the game. And he, like, substituted himself out of the game so that they could play the better defensive lineup and play the guy who had been playing really well in that game. And so he sacrificed his minutes, his ability to like shine, because he wanted the team to win, because he thought playing I believe his name's Kyle Alexander, Kyle Alexander, playing him gave them a better chance of winning, and they ended up pulling out that game in overtime. Andrew, your favorite game of the weekend?
One that I was, I guess, most invested in was Marquette and Murray State. Where Murray State just... John Morant... No, it wasn't even... Yeah, we can't even say Murray State. It's just... John Morant just put the team on his back and just outplayed
Marcus Howard. The step back 3 that he hit, which wasn't a James Harden step back, it was an actual step back that wasn't a travel.
Aren't they all?
And the back cut, like two-handed tomahawk dunk over the like center that he had, like those 2 plays stole the weekend. Like people were going to be going away from the first weekend talking about John Morant's plays and like how crazy good he is, because this is a lot of people's first like time watching him.
Yep.
Like they heard the stories, they've seen the clips, but like this is the first time watching him play, you know, a 40-minute game.
It's like those people in the mountains that finally find Bigfoot. It's like, oh shit.
He's not just a blur.
He does exist.
They do exist. He was phenomenal. The first triple-double in an NCAA tournament game since Draymond Green did it in back-to-back years for Michigan State. And the first guard to have a triple-double since one Dwayne Wade for Marquette. So it's kind of funny that he did it against Marquette, Dwayne Wade's alma mater. That game was billed to be, you know, this like 95-90 game where it was just run and gun and up and down, and Howard and Morant just going off like back and forth, and then it turned out to be...
It was a game for the first half.
Murray State I can't necessarily say that they're the better team, but they might have been just a bad matchup for Marquette.
I think that was just a bad matchup.
Yes, because
it wasn't like Howard didn't do anything. Howard balled out too. it was John Morant's show.
Mm-hmm.
Because, the next round Murray State just gets steamrolled by Florida State.
Even with
90
John
to
Morant
62.
balling.
Yeah, it was... Florida State's a bad matchup for a lot of teams.
They made it to the Elite Eight last year.
Yeah.
So
that leads us to you, Alvin. What was your game of the weekend?
my game of the weekend was Wofford in the first round. McGee setting the career record 509, and he also had 7 in the game, threes.
He ended up with 7. Yeah, he was 7 of 14 from the field. He was 7 of 12 from the 3-point line.
Yeah, and I don't know,
he had the
it's the Steph Curry effect when Steph Curry or the Warriors get hot from just shooting threes, and the crowd just still gets hyped, and I mean that's just how I felt up in there.
Oh yeah, I mean, he is Kyle Korver. He's going to have a career in the NBA. He'll probably be around for 10 years just bouncing around teams because of what he can do. The only way I don't see him bouncing around a team is if the Spurs draft him in the second round, because he's just he could be a Marco Bellinelli. He's this guy who can come and shoot off of any angle and just run around screens. And he's actually probably a better athlete and defender than Marco is. So when I was watching him play that Seton Hall game, I was like, Fletcher McGee is going to be an amazing Spur when they take him in the second round. That's just how I see it. And he might end up being taken by another team just because they're like, well, he is the NCAA leader with threes, but he's somebody that I think that the Spurs need going forward. Bertans is good to have. I love Bertans as a player, and I think he fits his role well, but he's you need more than just the one guy. If you look at the Spurs roster, they have the flexibility of getting somebody like a Fletcher McGee in there going forward. So because he had a terrible game against Kentucky. And I was listening to the One Shining podcast today, and they were breaking down round 2, and they were talking about the Wofford Kentucky game, and Kentucky wins by 6. And Mark Titus, who's one of the hosts, who was a member of the Greg Oden, Mike Conley Ohio State teams, and actually played AAU ball with Mike Conley. He was like, when I'm a head coach, you're not allowed to go 4 for 5 from 3 in a game, because if you're 4 for 5 for 3 in a game, you need to be shooting more. You should not go over 40% from 3. If you are shooting the ball that well, my team is going to feed you until you start missing. Because they had Nathan Hoover, who had 19 points. He was their leading scorer. He was 4 or 5 for 3. But every time Fletcher McGee caught the ball, he was looking for a shot and just kind of shooting good shots for him because he's such a good 3-point shooter. But at some point, when they're just not falling, maybe hesitate a little bit and pass the ball and then kind of wait for that perfect open one to get one through, because once you hit that one, then the floodgates can start opening. But don't keep firing off balance 30-footers because that's your shot. Get it to the guy who's making shots because you need points. So I definitely liked watching Wofford, and they were deserving of the 7 seed that they got. They had a fantastic year, the first time that they were ever ranked in the top 25, and all of the accolades that they got. But now, getting into the next weekend slate, it's chalk. It's
straight up.
It's the first time that the top 3 seeds in every region has advanced to the Sweet 16. And like, I want to say it was like 15 years that it's been that long since that's happened. The only teams that are ranked out of the top 4 are number 5 Auburn and number 12 Oregon. So 2 of your 16 are outside of the top 4. So it's a very top-loaded, top-ranked bracket now. What is y'all's thought on the fact that it's pretty much chalk? Andrew, do you have a thought on the fact that we have pretty much a chalk bracket so far? Other than your Cincinnati take.
Yeah, I mean, this is why they're ranked where they are. This is why they have those seats. They got the seating right. The committee got the seating right.
They just might not have gotten the position of some teams right.
Yeah.
Alvin, what is your thought on the fact that we're at chalk? Because we were the ones that did the preseason breakdown and talked about Final Four because Andrew missed that podcast recording.
Yeah.
So when the season started, did you see the fact that there would be less parity in this NCAA tournament than there had been?
I just think it's not a surprise this year just because the top teams they're just that good. I mean, you got some exciting young teams, but you see the holes that they're missing when they do play against the top-rated teams. And so it's not like surprising that there's only 2 teams out of the top 4 that's in the Sweet 16.
Yeah.
And I just feel like that's just because the side of the bracket that they're on.
Yeah, I definitely... I'm more surprised that it's so chalk just because of the nature of the NCAA tournament. Because that's the whole reason why people love the NCAA tournament is because you get teams like Loyola Chicago and you get teams like George Mason and you get teams like UMBC and like these just small schools getting into the first tournament or like getting their first tournament win and just going on this special run, and you tend to see buzzer beaters and like all this crazy action, and you really haven't this year. It's like some of the games have been really, really good games, but it's more that they're just good games and they're not special.
Yeah.
Like there's nothing special about this year, like other than a couple moments of games. So it's coming down to, as I said, the top 3 seeds in each region, 2 4 seeds, a 5 and a 12. I think, Andrew, did you put Cincinnati in your Final Four?
Yes, I did.
I couldn't remember if you had them in the Elite Eight or in the Final Four.
Both.
Because I want to say that we still, other than that pick, we still have our Final Four intact. I'm checking our bracket now because I know that I had mine still intact, even though I missed out on a couple Elite Eight teams. Alvin, do you remember who you had in the Elite Eight?
Oh yeah, I pulled that up.
So
I know it was Michigan State, Duke, Elite Eight. Yeah, Duke and Michigan
see,
State.
you still have your 4 Final 4 intact.
Gonzaga, Texas Tech, Virginia, Tennessee, North Carolina, and Houston. Those are my Elite Eight.
And then you're just missing Cincinnati. Which I can't really I give you shit for the Cincinnati pick, but I can't blame you for picking a team outside of in the Final 4 because that happens pretty regular. Cincinnati might not have been the right team, but I almost put.
I mean, there was Auburn, maybe.
But they're a 5. Yeah, they're a 5 seed. That's not really going out it would be somebody having. I had Nevada in my other bracket in the Final 4. It's not unheard of for a team 1, 6, 7, 8 seed to get into the Final 4. So it's I'm not I don't think picking a 7 seed to the Final 4 was the wrong play because I don't think anybody thought that it was going to be so much top ranked winning. So anything else that happened over the weekend that you would like to discuss? Alvin, do you want to discuss some North Carolina basketball other than Duke?
I mean, just showing dominance in the bracket. I mean, I know the bracket difficulty is a lot easier for North Carolina, but to show that, to put a dominant win is just to show, yes, this is the number 1 team. You should be destroying the teams in that bracket anyways. Yeah. Duke right now is struggling, even though with Zion Williams balling out. Williams' son. Even with him balling out, Duke is still struggling at certain points. And but I just feel that's just because they're playing with teams that are much better defensively.
Yeah, and I think that was one of the things that before the tournament started, we kind of discussed about. I think Andrew made the point. Is North Carolina just gonna run themselves tired because of how offensively potent they are, and they run this high-powered run-and-gun offense where they're putting up all these points and they're shooting all these shots, and they're just the teams that are facing them in the first 2 rounds they don't have the firepower. So when they come up against a team who has the possibility of matching them shot for shot or the ability to slow the game down and lock them down defensively, what's going to happen there? But yeah, these first 2 games, Kobe White's been awesome. Luke May's been great. Cam Johnson had a good first game. Not so much in the second game. But there was a reason why they were a 1 seed, as you said. They're showing they should blow teams out like this. But there was a reason why they were, ranked in the top 5 almost all year because of how this team really goes 7, 8 deep of star-studded potential. Duke goes 7 deep out of necessity because they have to give guys breaks. They don't. They're 5 deep. They have with
maybe a 6.
6. So Delorier and Bolden are interchangeable, and Jones, Reddish, Barrett, and Williamson are the Fab 4. But they don't have the same kind of potency that North Carolina does. So we'll see how this weekend goes. What team are you most confident in to wrap up the NCAA tournament going forward? I know me and Andrew picked Duke to win it, and you pick North Carolina, I doubt your confidence is going to be wavering with, the fandom there. But just to still get you to answer that question,
Just say it.
what team are we most confident in going forward? And so Alvin,
On record?
on record,
Just say it.
I mean, the Tar Heels, of course.
Say it.
Andrew, who are you most confident in going forward?
On the record,
Yes.
Zion Williams.
Son.
Williams on.
Williams. And
I'm fairly confident in my Duke winning it all pick, but the team that I'm actually most confident in going forward is Gonzaga.
how did I know you were going to say that? I was going to say something stupid.
I almost said Virginia, but Gonzaga I think has the easier bracket, and they have the deepest team in the country.
Who?
Gonzaga.
Oh, yeah.
So that's why I'm most confident in them. I still think Duke will win it all, but I didn't ask us who's going to win it all. I asked who are we most confident in. Those answers could be different.
Depends.
I was just like,
I said they can be different. They're always different. They can be different, and then in my case, they're different. So here's what I wanted to do for a couple weeks, and I think this is the week to do it since the NBA has been quite interesting over the past few weeks with the playoffs rounding into shape, other than the actual seeds of the Western Conference. I wanted us to do like the hottest of hot takes we could give for the NBA from now until the beginning of next season. So it's something that we'll say that if it got into the public, they would want to slap us because it's just ridiculous and unheard of. But we still kind of think that it's going to happen. Kind of a fun game to play. So what are our hot takes for the NBA from now until next October? Alvin, I'll let you lead this off because I want to go last because I think y'all are going to look at me funny when I say mine.
Well, I was kind of debating on two different ones, but since we want to make it something outlandish, I think the Lakers should have kept Julius Randle and D'Angelo Russell instead of letting Julius Randle walk to New Orleans and trading away D'Angelo Russell. I felt like if the Lakers had those two along with Lonzo Ball, they most likely wouldn't have Kuzma because they got Kuzma off of the Nets' 27th pick. But I felt like with LeBron James and
they wouldn't have picked Lonzo Ball if they kept D'Angelo Russell.
Well, D'Angelo Russell plays more of a two guard, and
No,
then
he
you have D'Angelo Russell's more of a two guard.
He's the modern day point guard.
Well, like I say, if you draft Lonzo, you move him to the 2 spot because he's still 6'3". He's not that short, and he scores in buckets, in bunches. I mean, and you got the taller Lonzo Ball, and then you got LeBron James. You'll have Brandon Ingram, Julius Randle. I feel like that team would be a lot more at a better point at this end of this season compared to what they are now. And if people go back and check tape, D'Angelo Russell and Julius Randle both show glimpses of them being breakout stars.
You can ask Robert about this because we had this conversation because he's a Spurs fan and we know how Robert gets about the Spurs and how he can get about the Lakers. He's like the Lakers how you are with Duke, Alvin. But I was trying to tell him like Julius Randle and D'Angelo Russell, if given the time and opportunity are going to be stars. Like, that's how good these guys are.
Mm-hmm.
I was a big fan of both of those guys, and there's no way that if they kept D'Angelo Russell, they're drafting Lonzo Ball over Jason Tatum.
I still think that would have been a possibility. But either way, because it did show their last years with the Lakers, when they did get the heavy minutes, the 30-plus minutes, they were putting up stuff that they're putting up now. I mean, of course, D'Angelo's more points scored now, but with with Julius Randle, 18 points?
He had like 18 and 7 last year with them. Like, he's...
Yeah, and so he's putting up those numbers now, and I had him as my most improved candidate when we did the preseason picks. And I don't know. To me, they made a mistake. Front office made a mistake by getting rid of those guys. You could probably make an argument on why they got rid of Russell because of the off-court stuff.
The hottest of hot takes I wanted you to do is because a lot of people were saying D'Angelo Russell and Julius Randle, like, they made mistakes there. What you should have been saying is that the Lakers need to fire Magic Johnson and Rob Pelinka. There's the hot take. You kept it timid because you were talking about things that are still being discussed as far as, like, the Lakers making a mistake, especially with D'Angelo Russell having the game that he had a couple weeks ago where he put up, or not a couple weeks ago, last week where he put up 27 in the fourth. Like, people are like, well, are the Lakers kicking themselves because they traded him? And then it gets to the fact that they traded him to get rid of Timofey Mozgov contract because they knew they had the number 2 pick and they had the opportunity to draft Lonzo Ball. And then the snowball keeps going. I think with the mistakes that the front office has made, the issues that the Lakers have, other than getting LeBron James, is the fact that Magic Johnson is a brilliant basketball mind, but he doesn't know personnel decisions. And Rob Pelinka has never been in that position. He was an agent before he was a GM. And so you're having two people who have never really made basketball personnel decisions, making personnel decisions. And then you have the LeBron James factor of having to make sure you suit your team for him in the future and all that, and it's just been a mess. I think they need to realize that the guys that they have making their personnel decisions aren't the right guys for the job, because they aren't. They're just not. They blew the Anthony Davis thing, but that was also kind of Rich Paul's issue, and they haven't made a good move their entire tenure outside of signing LeBron James. And one can even argue that wasn't even a good move.
They can't even say that because the LeBron James coming to LA, that was inevitable. That was going to happen regardless.
Yeah, but that's the one thing that they can at least say. Yeah, well, we signed LeBron James, like,
and they lost. All right, they lost Paul George, they lost Kawhi. I mean, because he's not going to LA. I mean, they're just losing stars.
He's not going to the Lakers at least.
Well, yeah, he's not going to the Lakers. Jimmy Butler not wanting to go into the Lakers. Before there was talks about him going to the Lakers. Now you're hoping that Kyrie comes. And that you're able to still trade for AD, but like that ship is long gone.
I think that's the issue that the Lakers have had, is that they've just seemed desperate the entire time.
Yep.
Like you can't seem desperate. Like, yeah, you want to show interest, but like everything that they've done has been out of as desperation.
All because they lost Paul George. I think that's
so we had a couple embers there from Alvin. Andrew, can you throw some gas on the fire?
I prepared the fire for you so you could heat it up.
My hot take, I got the Knicks. You know, they got a big off-season coming up, free agency. They got two max slots open up
again,
and a lottery pick that they're hoping is going to be filled with the Zion in it. there's a lot of talk going around about those two max slots going to Kyrie and KD. I see Kyrie being there, but I also see Boogie instead of KD. Right now, Boogie's coming off of this 1-year deal with Golden State, and he's looking hot. He's looking like he hasn't missed a step. You know,
getting back.
It was a big gamble.
He's been pretty terrible on defense, but
this is an 18-month injury.
Yeah.
I was like, he's on,
not there yet.
He's on like what, month 13?
Yeah.
So by next season he should be 100%, and I say that with little air cubes.
Air quotations.
Yeah.
Now are they hitting the $725 million Powerball, or are they hitting the $40 million Mega Millions?
I don't know. I can't call that one. I mean, that's there's hot takes, and then there's just wishful thinking.
So, do you think KD goes to Brooklyn Nets instead?
I think KD goes to the Clippers.
I like that call. I see KD with the Knicks, though.
Do you see KD with the Knicks?
I see KD
I see him with the
Nets.
Nets.
With the Nets.
Yeah.
Because
he signed with Rock Nation, right? That's the sports agency he's with.
I
no
don't
idea.
know. I don't know who represents him.
As far as I'm concerned, KD represents himself.
Yeah,
that's how he carries himself.
I could have sworn he was like one of the first athletes that that went to Rock Nation. And I was in my mind, I'm putting those two together, like the correlation don't just match because JC was part owner of the Nets.
I don't think Jay-Z really cares anymore.
Yeah, I don't think Jay-Z's in basketball.
Well, I mean, he's in the sports realm with the Rock Nation.
I think he's working for Puma now.
I think he's working for Beyonce.
Who can blame him? Who run the world? Yeah, I just, it's hard for me to get over it just seems inevitable that Kyrie and KD are going to end up in New York. And I don't think they get Zion. I think they end up with the number 4 spot.
Damn.
So they'll end up with Cam Reddish or
that's gross.
You
don't want no Cam Reddish.
Bol. They'll try to make a splash with Bol.
It's like when the Cowboys hit. No, they didn't hit on that LSU defense. Who was it? Oh man, who was that? Cowboys cornerback they got from LSU. Oh my God, what the fuck's his name?
Oh. They was hyping him up next with Patrick Peterson.
Yeah, and the Honey Badger.
Yeah. And he was shit.
And he was that fucking redheaded stepchild.
Yeah, that fool was shit.
Yeah.
That's how trash he was.
Maurice Claiborne?
Yeah, Claiborne. There you go.
Oh, that's right.
I was all, that's how
that's the equivalent right there.
I think they're gonna slide, and it's gonna be disappointing, and they're gonna end up getting DeAndre Hunter from Virginia or Nas Little.
Hey, don't knock on no Nas Little.
Yeah, but he's not Zion Williamson.
Yeah.
So the reason why I wanted to do the NBA hot take is, a couple weeks ago, I'm watching NBA games, and I'm watching how everything's shaping out, and I'm watching some teams, and I'm like, I just who's winning it all this year? I've said Golden State from the beginning, and I still kind of think that they're going to win it, and then I just kept my gut kept poking at me and just kept no, your gut is telling you something different. Golden State's not winning the title this year.
He's gonna say, so I went to Denver.
So I'm perusing the Western Conference, and I'm like, all right, well.
And I saw the Spurs playing.
I see how the seeds are matching up, and I'm like, but I don't really trust some of these teams to get past Golden State. Like they don't have enough. They don't have enough firepower. Like Golden State's winning the West. So, all right. So who's going to beat Golden State? Who's going to beat Golden State? So I'm looking at the Eastern Conference, and you know my gut is just still telling me
Spurs.
Golden State's not winning it, but they're making the NBA Finals. So who's beating Golden State? And I'm watching the Eastern Conference, and I'm looking at teams, and I'm like, okay, well, who can do it?
Who can do it?
This is intense right here.
Right.
I have to hype it up. I gotta hype myself up a little bit, and
That's why I wanted to go last. He has the script written out and everything.
I had Ember over here, and then I have you blowing on it a little bit, trying to spark the flame. And I kept coming back to the same team, and just like.
He's going to say the Bucks.
There's no reason to say this team because they haven't shown it all year.
I was going to say Boston.
But Boston is winning the championship. Like I fully believe that Boston is slow playing this because they match up with every team in the East. They match up with every team in the league. They have the ability to literally match up with every team in the league, and they're the only team that I think can say that as far as roster and talent. And one can argue that Kyrie is a better player than Steph Curry. It's just that Steph is just so, like, such a good shooter that overdoes everything that Kyrie can do. But as like ball handler and passer and scorer and finisher and defender, like Kyrie can probably outmark Steph on a lot of those things, except shooting, where Steph is like 9,000, over 9,000 in Vegeta terms. And Kyrie is like not even close. I can't.
He's like 3,000.
He's like Kyrie's like 10.
Oh.
As doing the comparison, all right.
Wait, no. Tien is actually very good. You're talking about Yamcha level.
No, see,
He's thinking Krillin with hair.
High school goal.
but you know, Al Horford and Jason Tatum are out injured right now. As long as they get those two guys back, I don't see a team in the East really beating them in a 7-game series. I just don't. If I was to take 30 minutes and go team by team and why that team is not going to beat them in a 7-game series, we would be sitting here for too long. I wanted to make this quick. I just wanted to make my hot take. So that's what I'm going to do. Boston Celtics are going to win the NBA championship this year. And I don't know why I had that gut feeling. They just got blown out by the Spurs last night.
Well, you probably didn't
four games in a row. That miracle plane ride effect wore off. But when healthy, in the playoffs, shorter rotations, more minutes for the better guys, their team, I think they're the most complete team in the league. And if you're telling me that they're playing Toronto in the playoffs while Toronto has Kawhi, that doesn't make up for the fact that year in and year out, Kyle Lowry doesn't show up in the playoffs.
Well, you don't even know Kawhi's going to be playing all the games in the playoffs.
Yeah, I know. Well, there's no back-to-back. There's no back-to-backs.
You might want to just take a DNP.
But they have guys to throw at Kawhi. Like, they just have the ability to... Danny Green might be the X factor in that series. I miss you, Danny Green. So that was my NBA hot take. That I really didn't care about y'all's hot take. I just wanted to say that and put that on the record because I've been sitting on that one for a few weeks.
I just wanted to get this off my chest.
So
Danny Green, I missed.
That's another thing I needed to get off my chest. Let's finish up on fire and Dyer and Prohesies. Andrew, lead us off. Who's on fire?
My fire, I've got Trae Young. Been tearing it up since All-Star break. There's talks of him taking that Rookie of the Year award.
Not gonna happen.
Over Doncic.
Over Doncic.
Not gonna happen.
Because Trae Young, he keeps just like going up and up. And Doncic kind of stalled out. He's just flatlined. So if it keeps going that way, just regular physics will go up. You'll catch up to something that's going flat.
You know what happened? Similar recently. I believe it was last year. There was a player who after All-Star break kind of went up and up and up, and then there was a player who played so great all season and had a better team record and ended up winning Rookie of the Year. That happened last year with Donovan Mitchell and Ben Simmons.
Yeah, and I was going for Donovan Mitchell because he was going up and up and up.
Yeah, but it was too late for that.
And I think it's too late for Trae Young.
You think so?
Because he's also not getting team success.
Yeah,
it's just that his usage rate is so high that he's found the range. Like, had he been able to find the range back in November with this usage rate,
I think he found a swagger.
I definitely did think he found a swag, but I think it's Doncic still.
Doncic has been leading Dallas. Like, the fact that they were almost playoff bound, almost solely on the fact that Doncic was so damn good.
Well, Dirk, come on.
Come on.
We don't. There's a reason why people are retiring him for him. He hasn't even announced his retirement.
I think it's like him and Vince Carter thinking about coming back for another season.
Just don't.
Vince Carter is, that's for sure. He said he was.
Vince Carter I'm fine with because he's still dunking and he's still playing well.
Still got legs under him.
Yeah, two of them.
But Dirk's fucking putting up numbers still too.
Man, I say Dallas has had this team success and they only have 3 more wins than Atlanta right now. But I also think that the one of the reasons why Doncic has hit that stall is because his usage rate was so high early in the season and he banged up his knee that he hasn't looked physically the same in the last couple weeks, the last month. But yeah, Trae Young is definitely making it at least a conversation. But I think it was one of those where Doncic was so far ahead that the race might end up being close. But Doncic is doing things that have like hardly ever been done by rookies. Alvin,
isn't that what they said about Ben Simmons last year too?
Yeah. Guess who won
it? My fire. I think this is going to be looking like a norm going on.
I don't know.
Gronk retiring. I think he's ending it off on a good note, and basically, like, he just needs to, just like how every other like great player that's high usage and like Calvin Johnson retiring early, Barry Sanders retiring early.
They're retiring early are completely different than Gronk retiring.
I don't think Gronk really retired early.
You don't think so?
I think Gronk retired at the perfect time.
Yeah, he's
I say it's perfect time because his
body's older than him.
Yeah, I know.
That's not early.
He missed equivalent of 2 seasons due to injuries.
Yeah. But he also played the equivalent of 1 in the playoffs.
I know, yes. Like, his numbers is, like, outrageous.
Yeah, he's the greatest tight end of all time. Like, he is. Like, he's the greatest. There are tight ends that have been able to do some things better than him. Like, there have been more athletic tight ends, like a Shannon Sharp or a Sterling Sharp. But they also weren't the physical... They weren't polar bears or black bears, depending on how you want to phrase that.
Well, I do think Gronk is definitely most dominant.
He's also not only is he a great route runner, pass catcher, like receiving threat, but he's also like he was Jason Witten times 5. And people were saying Jason Witten's a Hall of Famer because of all the things he was able to do, but Jason Witten wasn't as fast. He wasn't as strong. I don't even think he was as good of a blocker as Gronk was. Like, Gronk is the most complete tight end, and he did it at the highest level consistently year in, year out. And had he not had the injuries, which I just think come with the position and the body size of him, because the reason he has the injuries is because of where people have to try to tackle him.
Mm-hmm.
They either need to hit him in the helmet or they need to hit him in the leg. But we might never see a tight end like Gronk again, just because of how physical he was, while also still having a finesse game.
Isn't that what we said about LeBron? And then
years later
came
Zion.
No, I'd never said that about LeBron. I mean, I've said that we might not see a player to do all of the things that LeBron does that well.
But just his
size and athleticism?
Exactly.
Oh, no, I mean, growing up playing basketball and watching basketball, you could see that was the evolution of the game.
But just the fact that you saw LeBron, the size that he was, running as fast as he could, jumping as much as he did, it was mesmerizing.
It was new when he came into the league because he was Magic Johnson plus MJ. And now it's kind of a regular thing. Like Giannis is not a small guy.
Oh, no. Not at all.
And he takes 5 dribbles and he's dunking after getting a rebound. So it's like that was the evolution. There were articles written back in like 2008 about the NBA becoming positionless basketball, where we used to say, okay, here's your point guard because he's the smallest guy.
Mm-hmm.
Here's your shooting guard because he's a little taller, but he's a better shooter than the point guard is.
Your position is based off your height.
Right. And your
now
skill.
It's based off your skill.
And now it's just like, all right, cool. You 5 go out there and figure it out.
Mm-hmm.
So, but with the way where football is going, like, look at the best tight ends in the league right now. Not including Gronk, you're looking at guys like Travis Kelce and Zach Ertz. And they're big guys, but they're so much smaller than Gronk still. Like, that's how big Gronk is. Like, you stand those two guys on the field together, and it looks like Gronk is a completely, like, he's 2 people. He's 2 inches taller than Kelce, but he has like 60 pounds on him. So that's my main reason why, like, we're not going to see this guy again. We're not going to see a guy like him. And he should have retired this year. He probably should have retired last year, but he came back and he gutted out another season, and he had the injuries and he didn't have his best season ever, but he made the plays that needed to be made to help win a Super Bowl. My fire is money lines. For the first time since the field expanded to 64 teams, the 16 favorites in the round of 32 all won on the same, so every money line favorite in the round of 32 this tournament won the game. And one bettor cashed out a $79,000 bet slip by betting all the money lines. So money lines for the win.
Yay, gambling.
I love gambling.
Love it.
I love gambling. It's addicting. That's why I only do $1 at a time. So I don't lose all my money. So I'm gonna follow up. My it's a company in Dyer, and that's Nike. You get a lawyer arrested for blackmail, pretty much, but he's going to still end up just dropping the bombshell of like the recruiting scandal that Adidas got hit with 3 years ago. And like Nike was like kind of, it looked like they came out clean, and Adidas was getting their name dragged through the mud. But after the news broke today that we were texted by Andrew with Michael Avenatti tweeting that he's going to have a press conference and release details about high-ranking Nike executives and the college recruitment scandal, following up what was going on last week with Aunt Becky. Nike is only slightly in dire because it's still Nike and it's still...
It's not going to affect them.
I mean, they sponsor college teams. Like, they provide them.
Adidas. So.
Yeah, so it's...
They sponsor complete basketball leagues.
Oh my god.
That was just because Adidas wanted to... They backed out and didn't want to put up as much money than
I was talking about the Drew League.
Oh, no. Nike's the apparel sponsor for both NFL and NBA, and it's because they were like, hey, we'll give you billions of dollars, and Adidas is like, that's cool. We got the most popular sport in the world on lock.
Yeah, we got
in track and field, and like, we have all these other things.
We're really fighting with Puma here.
Right.
Not you yet.
You can have basketball and football. That's all right. Andrew, who's in dire for you?
My dire goes against your little fire. Or not your fire, your hot take. I got the Celtics. Kyrie Irving, he's gone.
Hey, again, just because they're in dire right now doesn't change the fact that they're still winning the NBA championship this year.
It's a lot of dysfunction within that team.
Eagles developed last year, man. Because they proved that they could ball without you.
Yeah, it's a lot. Kyrie's fucking talking shit about Brad Stevens.
Kyrie's talking shit about everything. He
talks shit about
he needs
world.
to he needs to, like the
science.
I think we said this similar thing recently, where it's a different reason, but like, shut up and dribble.
Oh shit!
There's
a hot take.
It's not like the politically driven or anything.
Man,
it's like
he's so emotional, bro.
Like
seriously,
we're not,
that's what it is.
Like your problem is not the media, and it's not like anything outside of just going onto the court
it's
and,
not the world being flat.
being a good teammate.
He denounced that already. Oh, sorry. Yeah, he denounced that already.
Yeah, he said it. He only said it to open children's minds to question everything.
Yes. He questioned that instead of Santa.
You know that's why he didn't go to Duke, for the educational reasons.
Yeah. No, he was there 1 year.
Exactly.
But yeah, he needs to just he became too much like LeBron. I just said he's arguably a better player than Steph Curry, but he's not the team leader that Steph Curry is. Like, Kyrie needs to realize, like you just said, this team got, a bad shooting night away from the NBA Finals and beating LeBron James without you.
Yep.
Like, yeah, you're a great player, but we're a great team. And if you can just fit in and help and take us to the next step, because all they needed last year was a shot maker, which he is. They didn't
somebody to create for their own.
They didn't need anything else. They needed a shot maker. Mm-hmm. But he came back this year and was like, I'm the best player, and I'm
best point guard in the league and tried to become the alpha when he didn't. He just needed to. He needs, with a team that good, and I think with teams in the NBA, you have a few guys that you can win without being coachable, per se. Like LeBron, you can win titles without him being like a coachable superstar. Michael Jordan, you could win championships without him really being coachable.
But he was coachable.
To an extent. To an extent. I don't think he necessarily was coachable. I think the guys around him understood what he could do. I think the guys around him molded more than Jordan molded to them.
You kind of had to.
Yeah.
Well, but that's what I'm saying. Like, but he was such a great player that he could do things on the court that he didn't, like. He was the one that was going out late at night and gambling and not sleeping and not. He wasn't Tim Duncan. He wasn't Dirk Nowitzki. He wasn't Steph Curry. He wasn't a guy where if the coach said, hey, can you run this drill properly? Or, hey, you were in the wrong spot. He would say, you're right, let me fix it.
Or he'll punch you in the face, Steve Kerr.
But that's like, I don't think Jordan was coachable in that sense. Jordan could be like, hey, pull up from here, and like he could be coachable in a sense. But from what I'm saying is that as far as coachable goes, I'm talking like Paul Pierce was coachable with Doc Rivers, like where he was setting the standard for all the other guys to follow. As far as like, hey, I'm showing up every day, practicing. Like Ray Allen, extremely coachable. He was a lead by example. Like, I'm not, even though I'm the best player on the team, even though I'm the superstar, if I don't come in and do the work, we're not going to win. And so that sets the example for, the 5th guy, the 7th guy, the 12th guy on the team that, well, our best player is showing up every single day and busting their ass to get better. Let me get better. Let's be a team together. And I don't think Kyrie is that guy.
Oh, no. Kyrie, no. He's a baby.
Alvin, your Dyer?
My Dyer, Argentina soccer. That 3-1 loss to Venezuela, man, did not look
Was that
good.
the game that Messi got hurt in?
I don't. He played the full match, but
Okay, did he?
Yeah,
I knew that he had got hurt in one of the matches recently.
yeah, I know he played the full match on this, but I don't know what it is. But Argentina is fucking weird. They got the talent, but they're playing like fucking American soccer, just straight up trash. American soccer don't got the talent and they're trash. But Argentina, they got chock full of talent and they just can't get it together. And with Messi, like, this is the one thing that Messi needs on his resume to like solidify him probably as the best or up there as top 3 footballers in the world, and there's no way he's going to get that World Cup with this Argentina squad.
I don't think he can never be called the best footballer. I mean, Tom Brady's got that down.
always with the little.
There always one. There's always one.
He always keeps the shank on him. Always keeps the shank.
He's like the dude from that movie, Don't Be a Menace. Bone check, fool.
Well, let's wrap it up. Alvin, what's your prophecy?
My prophecy, Virginia Tech beating Duke.
I do have that in my other bracket. I have my 2 brackets. I have Virginia Tech actually winning it. Justin Robinson's back for this game.
Yep.
They've been playing really solid basketball, and they have a well-rounded team, and Buzz Williams is a fucking awesome coach.
And again, they do everything well. Defense, shooting, rebounding. They have very little holes on that team, especially with Robinson back.
Andrew, on to you. Prophesize.
I got Lonzo signing with Nike by next week already. I think it's essentially done. I think the contract's written up. He just needs to sign it.
Yeah, I think the contract has been written up since he was a senior in high school.
Oh, shit.
It's going to be like, here's your ankle supports.
Yeah. It's crazy.
I saw that.
They really fucking question. Like, do you think these fucking triple Bs are the reason your ankle keeps getting hurt? It's not a real, like...
I plead the fifth.
It's not a good brand like Nike.
Do y'all remember End One shoes?
Yeah.
Yes.
Matt Stevenson's.
They were such trash quality shoes.
They were great shoes.
Oh, the End Ones I had, they were terrible.
What?
They didn't get the right ones.
They were terrible. Maybe I was just trying to ball on a budget, but I had some.
They weren't no Dadas, but
the Dadas.
They weren't bad.
Chris Webber.
Nah, man, I'm talking about the Spreewell spinners.
Oh, I thought you were talking about the Webbers.
But I was rocking the KG Adidas back in 01.
Yo, ugliest shoes.
The Tim Duncan Adidas.
The Kobe 2s.
The Kobe 2s, the cardboard, the shoe boxes.
I like those.
That Man in the
Shoe
Moon
boxes.
fucking shoes.
Those are fucking tight.
He doesn't even acknowledge those.
Up until like the new era of Nike shoes that were when Kobe started coming out
with the flexes and all that.
Yeah, like Kobe had some ugly fucking signature shoes.
Yo,
everyone had an ugly shoe.
The fucking Crazy 8s that became super popular.
I like Crazy
that
8s.
was ugly.
Those are nasty.
Yo, he says the other company. He's all, what, them shoes by the other company? Yeah, we don't talk about those.
Like fucking, what was it? Swaggy P try to get him to sign some Adidas for he said he threw him in the trash.
My prophecy is by the end of the week, the Spurs will be sitting in the 4th seed.
Ooh.
They're only a couple games behind Portland. They did just beat Portland. They dropped that stupid game to Miami. Almost pulled it out still. Almost pulled out the game in which James Harden dropped 61. And that fucking ref didn't call that garbage-ass offensive foul call on DeMar DeRozan.
I thought he was going to say Zion again.
No, that one was the one they called was questionable. The one that they didn't call was definitely not a charge. But they could have beaten Houston then. They've been playing really well. LA just carrying the team. It's gotten to the point in this season where at the beginning of the season I was like, DeMar DeRozan is going to carry this team to the playoffs. And now I'm like, DeMar DeRozan, you just need to be a role player.
Yeah.
Like just...
LaMarcus has it right now.
Like, LaMarcus, we go when LaMarcus goes.
Mm-hmm.
Like, the Spurs, I think, this year are 10-0 now when he scores 30. They're undefeated when he scores 30. I don't know how many times he's done it. It's been at least 10 times. I know that.
He's put up 45 twice this season.
And he's one of, like, 6 players this year to put up 50 twice.
Mm-hmm.
So he's the catalyst for the Spurs team, and I think they continue their role. They have a few home games and kind of they did have the easier way to go to the playoffs than a lot of the other playoff teams. So I have them sitting in the 4 seed come the next time we record next Monday, and that wraps up this edition. Anything else that y'all want to address before we sign off?
Nope.
Nah, we good.
Alrighty. Well, this is the Benchwarmers Podcast. I am Casey Coggins with Alvin Hebert.
Next time.
And Andrew Lira.
See ya.
Next week, we'll be talking Final Four.